Start over X.
How are you, sir?
Hello, mate. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, thank you, mate.
Heading back into town.
Yeah, of course. No worries.
earthquake, the city of Mandalay, they had about $1,000 worth of hospital supplies with them that they wanted to hand out because that's in great need at the moment. And they were stopped by junta officials from handing out that aid. And the only thing they could do was hand the aid directly to officials from the military regime and to leave the area. They were sort of escorted out. And so we have these two things where the junta is stopping people from celebrating New Year, but they're also not getting them the aid that they really desperately need.
Yeah, what are conditions like just over 2 weeks since that earthquake struck?
It's pretty grim. Recent from the epicenter of the quake, people are still crouched in really flimsy shelters, plastic sheeting propped up on all sides. They're really open on the sides. They're really exposed to most of the elements. And this is really going to become a problem starting next month because that's when monsoon season is going to begin, 4 months of monsoon season. So that's why many people in Mandalay, in the neighboring area of Sadaing, are really concerned at the moment because they're just not getting the help that they need and they don't really see a way forward at the moment.
Of course, the authorities in Myanmar have been facing an insurgency for some years and they don't control all the country. What's happening in those parts of Myanmar that are under rebel control?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, we've heard from the UN earlier this week calling on the junta to stop mounting attacks on rebel forces. There is meant to be a ceasefire in place that the junta had agreed to with rebel contingents. The rebel groups called the ceasefire first. The junta sort of reluctantly agreed after facing international pressure. But ever since then, we've seen continual evidence that the junta has been mounting attacks on rebel forces, 120, we think, since that earthquake took place on March 28th. And so they're also controlling transport routes around the country and really preventing aid from getting out of areas that they control.
Celia, many thanks indeed. Celia Hatton, our Asia Pacific editor. Hospitals are supposed to be protected under humanitarian law, but in Gaza they have been hit repeatedly, with Israel accusing Hamas of using them to hide command centers. Today, 2 Israeli missiles destroyed the operating theater and intensive care unit at the only functioning hospital left in Gaza City, according to Palestinian doctors there. Patients were evacuated from the Al-Ahli Arab Baptist Hospital after a warning from Israel shortly beforehand. All night I was in the hospital. Go. Where can they escape to, and how can they manage? The scene was scary from night up until now. I haven't slept a single minute out of fear. All night the glass was shattering everywhere. Well, 18 months ago, a deadly blast in the parking lot at the same hospital left hundreds of people dead. It was later blamed on a misfiring Palestinian missile. No one is thought to have died in this latest strike, but the Anglican Church, which runs the hospital, issued a statement saying this was the 5th time it had been hit and condemning such an attack at the beginning of a Christian Holy Week. Our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie
It was almost shortly after midnight, about 1 o'clock in the morning, Gaza time, when a doctor at the emergency department received a warning call from the Israeli IDF officer telling him that they must evacuate all of the patient medical staff and also hundreds of people who are taking the hospital as shelter because the Israeli army is going to hit a building. The initial assessment by the Hamas Health Ministry in the beginning showed that there is a building. A doctor in the hospital have told journalists that most of the departments in other buildings were also severely damaged. So in theory, the external door of the hospital is closed and the only and remaining hospital is not functioning anymore. This is the only hospital in Gaza City where about 900,000 people live, and you know the nearest hospital is in the middle of Gaza Strip called Al-Aqsa Hospital, and the road between the north and the south